Ja, ich bin auch Journalist, Sie haben mir nichts zu sagen. Ihr mit der Kamera macht so Audio und Sensation.
Hi everyone, I'm Fred Pleitgen and I am coming to you live on Facebook from Berlin after, of course, we had this awful attack here that happened yesterday night at around 8 p.m. And I was actually at home. I live only about 5 miles away from where this happened. And we got the early reports that came in, and I immediately came down to this place because I've actually been here very many times. I've been to this Christmas market very many times over the years, and so I knew the area and where it happened, and so I headed down here immediately. And I was here, I would say, about 50 minutes after the attack took place, and it was still very fresh. There was still a lot of ambulances going in and out of the area where the attack happened. There were a lot of authorities already on the scene. I have to say that the response from the German authorities was very fast, very efficient. You could tell that the different agencies that were involved in all this, of course, you have the fire department, you have paramedics, you have the police units, you have disaster control units as well. All of them worked together very well, very efficiently, because obviously they do have a lot of training in this, and they practice mass casualty events like the one that we saw here last night. At the same time, a lot of people were obviously very shocked at what happened, and showed that when we came out here. A lot of them, feeling very vulnerable, because many people, of course, know what it's like to be standing on one of these Christmas markets, to have a lot of people around you, to have very little space for movement, and just feeling like you're very vulnerable in case something bad happens. And I think, having a truck plow through a Christmas market is certainly something that was almost unfathomable to many people, because then when we got to the scene and we saw how large that truck actually was, that it was one of those big tractor trailers, it really, really brings it home, is that the people who were standing there in this Christmas market had absolutely no chance to try and get out of the way, because it would have been so full. The truck came through so fast that for many it was just impossible to get out of the way. And I've seen the first question come, where are police searching right now? I think that police are searching in a lot of places in and around the Berlin area. We have to keep in mind that right after the attack happened, or shortly after it happened, they apprehended one man, let's say about a mile and a half away from here, after an eyewitness had told them that someone was acting suspiciously, possibly had even followed that person. They then had that man in custody, questioned him. It looked as though there was a direct link to all of this, that this might be the person who had been sitting at the wheel of the truck when it plowed into that Christmas market. But then the police said that after questioning him, it seemed as though a lot of his alibis were checking out. And so that obviously made the situation even more concerning, whereas now the police is saying that it could very well be that they have the wrong person in custody, and that there might still be at least one person out there who potentially is also armed, because when the police found the truck, after the truck had stopped moving, right about 20, 30 yards from where we are right now, they also discovered a dead body on the passenger seat. And that dead body was riddled with bullets, and they never discovered a gun at the scene of the crime. And so therefore, they believe that it's very possible that if they don't have the person in custody, that the person who's still out there could very well be at large. And right now, what they're trying to find out is whether or not this was a single perpetrator, or whether or not there might still be other people out there, whether there might be a network behind all this. All this, of course, are things that the police are still trying to check out at this point in time. What has Berliners' reaction to the attack been? I would say that Berliners are probably among the strongest and most stoic people in the world. We were out here yesterday, again, about 45 to 50 minutes after this happened, and I really didn't feel much in the way of panic at this point. I think that Berliners are very strong people. They've dealt, obviously, with a lot of adversity in the past, having been a divided city for so long. And they do have a way of dealing with this in a way that they understand the magnitude of all of it. They understand the security concerns, and I think are very aware of the security concerns. But at the same time, you don't feel panic in this city. You feel people who are still going about their ways, but at the same time, obviously, still cautious enough and understanding also that this is a major event that just took place here. What will happen to the man who was originally arrested? I guess if his alibis check out, he'll probably be released. It seems as though the man is an asylum seeker who's coming from Pakistan. Unclear where in Berlin he was living or if at all in Berlin, but I'm guessing that if his alibis all check out, then at some point the police, under the German law, will have to release him and will probably do just that if they find out that they were looking in the wrong place and that indeed this person had nothing to do with all of this. Have other Christmas markets or events been canceled? I'm not sure. I mean, there's so many Christmas markets in Germany and in Berlin that it's really unclear whether or not any have been canceled, but I'm sure that there are some where there would have been additional security measures in place and also possibly different security measures than before. We've seen that in the past, that when there is a new security concern, that the authorities react to that fairly quickly, put new measures in place, try to put new measures in place, and certainly right now, after having something conducted with a vehicle, that's certainly something that in the future new security concepts are going to have to cater to. The fact that places just can't be staged in a way that they could easily be overrun. And I think this place also had some additional security measures as well. You see some of the fencing that you wouldn't have probably seen in the past. You see some of these minor barriers, but obviously none of that was big enough to hold up a big truck plowing through here. Has any terror group claimed responsibility? I don't think that any has so far. And I think that's one of the things that also makes it very difficult for the investigators, because they're obviously, again, trying to understand whether or not there might have been some sort of network behind this, or whether or not this is someone who will have done this on his own, whatever affiliation or non-affiliation, whatever ideology or non-ideology might be behind all this. But so far, no one has claimed responsibility. What do we know about the victims? Also very little. And I actually think that that's very good, because I think that the German authorities, we know, almost immediately cordoned off this whole area to make sure that there weren't people just sort of coming and gawking and looking at the scene that was going on. They're also very good at protecting the identities of those who were affected by this, protecting the identities also of the families of those who were victims in this. We do, however, know that there are a lot of people who were injured and that there are some people who were very critically injured. And that's also something that the German Chancellor spoke about earlier today, saying that obviously her thoughts are also with all the people who have been injured and some of them who are still critically injured, and that she does wish them a speedy recovery. No doubt everybody else here in this country does as well. And then, has the alert level been raised in other European countries? I know that other European countries have issued statements about security measures that they have at certain Christmas-related events. The UK certainly has. France has talked about this as well. I'm not sure that any terror alert levels will have been raised, but at the same time, I mean, we have to keep in mind that in many European countries, the terror alert level is already at a pretty high level. And so I'm not sure that at this point in time they would need to raise them, especially around the Christmas events. If you look, for instance, in the United Kingdom, in London, for instance, how many tourists come to that city for the Christmas events there. If you look to Paris, which is also a big city to go to for Christmas events. You go to Switzerland, for instance, Zurich, they have big events as well. So I'm not sure whether formally the terror alert level would have been raised there, but I know that the authorities in pretty much every European country are very much on the lookout and really are trying to do everything that they can to protect the civilian population, to make sure that everybody can have a nice Christmas without having to worry about something like this happening there as well. So that was it for our live on Facebook. I hope that we answered most of your questions. If you have any more, just text me. Thank you.
Dann wieder den nächsten. Wollen wir jetzt dieses Vertical Video machen?